Recording in progress. All right, so we're back. Um, and had an issue. Didn't realize that, this is our first time. So we ran into a technological issue. And so we're just going to continue on to this video. And as we were discussing the SEC, talking about the disparity between the Big 12 and the SEC. Anywho, so you said Vanderbilt, and I said, and I believe I ended our last conversation on saying that in a couple of years you're going to freaking see 4 SEC teams in
the Final 12. Yes,
yeah, going to. It's just going to happen, especially if Oklahoma and Texas come over and their programs start taking off as well. And I know
Oklahoma's will, Texas won't.
It's just because you hate Texas. So, anyways, let's talk about this podcast now that we got football out the way, kind of. So, we're just middle of the road guys, right? Middle-aged dudes. I forgot to even say that, earlier on. I'm just, fuck it. I'm just gonna be relaxed. I think the first episode we were going, I was whatever. Doesn't matter. I got 2 kids as well, and you got 2. Yours are older. You stay in Tennessee, I stay in Kentucky, Big Blue. We're both veterans, Air Force veteran, Army veteran. You're
So you said Air Force first again.
Whatever. I was just don't believe anything that guy says, specifically the collector. As you can see behind him, the guy's a huge collector.
Don't even start with me. You don't march in there until we bomb the shit out of everything.
Yeah, probably. Whatever. So anyways, I don't even know. We're talking about the SEC. We were talking about the national championship game, which big news in Kentucky this week.
Calipari sucks still.
I tell you what, if he loses tomorrow, I don't.
Who y'all play? Tennessee?
Play Tennessee. And we lost to fucking South Carolina, man. How do you lose to South Carolina? I mean,
I don't know.
Talent. I have never seen a team that has as much talent as they do lose as bad as they did.
Ask Tennessee and Clemson how you lose to South Carolina. Oh, wait a minute. That's the wrong sport. Sorry.
Wrong sport. All right. So talking football. We're still talking football. So
it's not. I don't talk football until the Super Bowl's over.
No,
and then I don't talk. I don't talk basketball until the Super Bowl's over. And I don't talk basketball until March Madness because I really don't. I'm not a big basketball guy.
I know you're not.
Growing up in Oklahoma, it was football. Yes, we had Wayman Tisdale. And we had the run and gun with Billy Tubbs. Rest in peace. But it's football was, and will always be.
So let's start. Let's see if we can break YouTube by starting the ultimate question, right? The ultimate debate, which is I think it's one of our favorite debates, right? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about today's NFL. Okay, we'll take the last 10 years of NFL, right? Versus 75 to 85 NFL compared to 2012 to 2022 NFL, right? Like, you think about the ultimate discussion is like, this generation, they talk about these players like they're like, my youngest, he idolizes Tyreek Hill. He idolizes Mahomes. My oldest loves Tom Brady. They grew up with these guys that are just larger than life, kind of with us where we grew up, I grew up, it was Walter Payton, it was Art Monk. It was, it was Theismann, but on your side, you had Jim Kelly, Joe Montana, the big 4, you had Jim Kelly, Joe Montana, John Elway, and Dan Marino, right? And, the question being, how would they compare to today's quarterbacks and look, like we said, man, this is just two old dudes talking, middle of the road guys. We both played football. I played a little bit of high school football, but we're really not experts. But the one thing that I love about us is we're just fans. And ultimately, you can get all these huge, big-headed, egotistical guys that are all over the place that think they know more than we do. They might be in the know, but they're not in the know. And everybody
just because you play doesn't mean you know it.
Exactly. You're not in the locker rooms. You don't know what's going on. It's just your daggone opinion. So if they can have an opinion show, so can we, because fans matter, not these bobbleheads that we get on Fox and on ESPN and on CBS. Our opinion matters, right? And I never feel like fans get the opportunity to really have a voice. I mean, we have our communities, our local
the fans aren't represented when they talk. We've had this discussion before other times. When the CBAs always come up in basketball, baseball, football, whatever, who's represented? The owners and the players.
Yep.
Well, hello, here's your clue, Einstein. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be fucking getting paid.
Exactly. And so I always feel like we're always left out. And I know there's, as Donald Trump.
It's our own damn fault because we follow them.
Right?
Go on strike, I wouldn't walk back again.
Exactly. But at the same time, I mean, it's all entertainment. It's all just a mass distraction. The NFL is the Coliseum, is what the Coliseum was to Rome. It's just a massive distraction to get us all. But it's a distraction we all love. So we all support and love. And so here we are talking about it. And we are doing this podcast as a representative for two middle-aged dudes who just have no representation out there when it comes to, football, and especially old school football. Like old school football, I feel like what you hear in NBA when you get a lot of this comparison between Jordan and LeBron, right? You hear that all the time, but you never get the comparisons of. Very rarely do you hear the comparisons of these new age guys compared to the old age guys. I mean, you kind of do, I guess, if you listen to enough football commentating. And maybe I just don't listen to a lot of local radio. Maybe that's the thing. But, what I've always, like, I look at a guy like Tyreek Hill, right? My son loves Tyreek Hill. I like Tyreek Hill. But we've had this discussion. If it's 1985 and Tyreek Hill comes across the middle on shallow cross, what's happening to Tyreek Hill?
Ronnie Lott and Steve Atwater, he's on a buggy and getting put in the ambulance, and he goes to the hospital.
Exactly.
Because they're cleaning his clock.
None of these guys, I think, would survive going across the middle the way the old dudes did. And they did. When you had guys like, you think about it, Mike Singletary. You had, there's so many names in my head that I'm trying to rattle off in the middle of them. Matt Millen. Lawrence Taylor. And then you go into these guys own the middle of the field. The last great, think about it in today's NFL. Who's the greatest middle linebacker in today's NFL? Can you name them? No. You know why? Outside of Luke Kuechly, how do you say his name? Luke Kuechly.
Kuechly. He's been retired a couple of years.
Okay, so think about it. Now you have Devin White. Devin White for Tampa. Is he? He's.
I don't know. I think he might be. I don't know.
I know Michael.
But that's what you're saying is that they don't stand out.
No.
So where you know, I've had this discussion. So like we said, this whole podcast is us getting out there, just two guys with an opinion talking about shit they've been talking about for 15 years.
Yeah.
And so the thing is where I stand. Okay.
Yeah.
The decade of the 70s to me was the best decade of football, college or pro, ever. Okay. And the 80s was right there. When the pros is starting to go down a little bit, because when you start getting money involved and it starts getting sideways and it gets popularity, I still think the NFL is the best professional sport to watch.
Yep.
Okay. Just because that's a biased opinion, because I like football. Okay. Nothing tops college football. Nothing. Okay. But like we were talking about this earlier this week, is that we were talking about a wide receiver that plays in the NFL now that could have played back in 75 to 85.
What did you say? What was it? One, right?
DK Metcalf. Because he's the only guy. Ronnie Lyon's not coming up because DK Metcalf goes like, shoe fly, don't bother me, okay?
Yeah.
But then the next time Ronnie Lyon comes up, he's like, all right, guy, you got me once. I'm going to get you next time.
Exactly.
But that's the thing to where football, you can't really do the comparison is because
the rules have changed.
Well, the rules have changed to help the offense, okay? And so the defense can't play as aggressive and physical as they once were, okay?
We both believe NFL, if you ever hear us, pass interference should be a spot foul. I mean, not a spot foul.
It's not a spot foul.
It should not be a spot foul.
That's a discussion for another time because we could do a whole hour.
We both agreed that, and I think there's a lot of us out there that agree that pass interference should not be a spot foul. It should be 15 yards.
Because they use it as a tool now. It's a play. It's a play that they use now.
And the thing is that they're going to try to vote in this reviewing of pass interference calls moving forward.
They did it, and then they kicked it out. It only lasted 1 year because the NFL didn't want it because they know that the referees look like shit because they're dumbasses.
So
I don't understand how a guy 30 yards down the field can throw a flag for pass interference, and his guy's coming down the right sideline, and the guy from the left hash mark is throwing the damn flag. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
You can see that, but you can't see this guy in the backfield taking the damn guy's helmet off as he's dragging him to the ground.
And
I'm like, really?
And it promotes every time you see a receiver not catch a ball, what are they doing? They're jumping up going, where's my flag? Where's my flag? I mean,
just like every damn quarterback that gets hit, he goes down. What you doing? He's looking.
Yeah, where's the flag? Where's the flag?
I got touched, man. I got touched. Wait. There should be a penalty. I'm on the grass. You know. But
go ahead.
Going back to that, but is football has changed because you've got guys. I mean, it's just evolution and genetics and all that. Is that football players have gotten bigger, faster, and stronger. Okay,
every year.
All right. We never thought we'd see a defensive tackle run or a middle linebacker that's 6'4", 260 run a 4.4 40. So they get bigger, faster, and stronger. So where I think when you go back to the argument with basketball is the game really hasn't changed that much. It's still, I mean, you could sit there and say all the sports, well, they don't change, they're the same thing. Yes, it's still the same thing, but yes, those guys have got bigger, faster, and stronger, which is funny. They get bigger, faster, and stronger, they score less points. Mm-hmm. And basketball is boring because it's throw the ball, run down the field, pass once, pass back to me, I'll go dunk the ball. Well, you know what? When you're 6'9", dunking the ball,
yeah, I mean, you're 6'9".
Again, my opinion, okay?
Oh, it was, yeah.
But like we said, we could. You had this Michael Jordan, Michael Jordan, LeBron argument all day long, and it's guys who watch Michael and guys who watch LeBron. Okay, there's a difference, but I like it that meme that I sent out to you in that chat earlier. The guy asked Michael Jordan. He goes, "Do you think the '90s Bulls team could beat the LeBron's Lakers team?" He goes, "Yeah." By how many? 2-3 points. He goes, "Really? Why?" He goes, "Well, most of us are almost
60, right?"
And I'm like, you're right. I would love to see Dennis Rodman on the same court with LeBron James.
Or none.
LeBron James would be so flipping frustrated, crying, all this, and that's the thing. The more you cried, the more you moaned, the more you cried, the more he did that shit. Because he knew it was in your head. I mean, those two titles that
where he
Chicago when they beat Utah. Yeah. Should Rodman even be on the court to be able to guard Karl Malone, one of the best power forwards ever played? Hell no. Karl Malone should have destroyed his ass. But you know what he did? Got in between his ears and got him off his game.
Same thing he did to Shaq. Look at what he did to Shaq in LA. I mean, dude, Rodman is probably by far one of the best defenders to ever play the game. Most people, I don't know if most people will say that, but I will say that. I think what he was able to do to Karl Malone, to Shaq, two of the most dominant inside guys to ever play the game, he lit them up. Now, statistically, I don't know what the numbers are, but I just remember watching those series going, Rodman's just going to beat you.
He's probably one of the most underrated basketball players ever, because if you sit there and you come up with people who say top 10 greatest basketball players of all time, nobody's putting Dennis Rodman in there.
You know, the guy
Michael's even said that he's the best physically fit guy he's ever played with.
Well,
I mean, Rodman was a physical phenomenon. To be 6'7", 210, 220 pounds, however big he was, okay, and he's getting rebounds over Shaq, Karl, and all these guys.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with physical presence and all that. Yeah, they should destroy him, but it's a matter of he knows where the ball's at. He knows where it's going to go. Same with Charles. Yeah. Charles won a rebounding title at 6'5", okay? True. Now, Charles got some junk in the trunk where he can back people off.
Well, that's
the thing. It's all about technique. And that's why I think Rodman's one of those guys.
Didn't Rodman average like some insane amount of rebounds for a season? Like
20? 1 year, I think he averaged like 18 or 19 rebounds a game.
That's ridiculous, man. I mean, it's insane. Averaging double-digit boards every game. I mean, that's just crazy. But as you said, I mean, when we start trying to compare these athletes today to the athletes of these old school athletes, you know, that's what I think the newer people would say. Well, these guys are bigger, stronger, faster than them old dudes. But like you said, I think if you put Dan Marino, imagine Dan Marino in Miami today with Jalen Waddle and Tariq Hill. He's throwing for 8,000 yards.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, in the rules that you had nowadays, you got to think Dan Marino never got touched.
No,
when he played,
no.
he had Dwight Stevenson was a center, one of the best centers in the league. Never got called for holding. Never got called for. I think he's a Hall of Famer, and Dan Marino had great. The only thing he didn't have on his offense was a damn running back. Okay, and he had mediocre at best defenses. Okay, but that's the thing. You put Dan Marino in the league now with the rules we have now about not being able to touch the quarterbacks. He's 400 yards every game at least.
The same thing for John Elway. I say the same thing for John Elway.
Yeah,
I think John Elway could do it. I think definitely Joe. Although the only thing I worry about with Joe is, in today's environment, who is the guy that reminds you of Joe? Because, you look at a guy like Aaron Rodgers.
That guy down in Tampa Bay is Joe Montana.
Yeah, well, yeah, he is. And
he's just got a stronger arm than Joe.
Yeah. But, I just look at it and go, man, there's so many quarterbacks. Like, I think about Randall Cunningham. That's who I think of in today's league. First of all, Randall could just throw the ball.
In today's league, you got to think a lot of those guys that were good, but not so great. Like you said earlier, Jeff George, Randall Cunningham.
I just look at
Dave Craig. A lot of these guys
Dave Craig. I always forget
that were good. You know why? Because here's the thing. Okay, it's what I told you about the thing that I always admire that guy down in Tampa is and I hated it watching it in New England. He's standing in that pocket, and that pocket is collapsing around him, and you're like, oh, we're going to get him. Then right when that guy gets right there to him, ball goes out, okay? You don't even see him standing there because the pocket's collapsed on him so much, and then the ball comes out, and you're like, how the hell did he do that? But that's the difference between between the quarterbacks now and the quarterbacks back then, the quarterbacks got rid of the ball faster back then because they knew if they held on to that ball, they were getting knocked the fuck out. Somebody's coming across there and is going to knock this shit out of them. Quarterbacks nowadays, they can hang on to the ball, sit there because they know if they get hit the wrong way, they get tackled the wrong way, whatever, it's a 15-yard penalty. And they'll say, you know what? I'll take that hit. Okay. Yeah. Because it's just like watching the quarterbacks in practice. When they're in practice, they got the vest jersey, the
red jersey,
colored jersey on it, and you can't touch him. Okay. And they say, oh, well, he looks good in practice. Well, no shit. Everybody's a Hall of Famer in practice because guess what? The defensive line and the defensive guys, they can't come in there. Oh, I'm going to come in. He can sit there in that pocket all day long, and if all you're going to do is two-hand touching, okay? There's no fear of getting hit in practice because he can sit there and do that. But in a game, you can't do that because you're going to get crushed.
One of the things that I admire more, that I've come to admire about Tom Brady, that I think is different than other quarterbacks, is that Tom Brady was always willing to get paid less to have more, you know, and there's no quarterbacks that do that today. Like, no quarterback is going to take a pay cut to have a better team, you know, and Tom Brady has always been willing to take a pay cut if I can get as good a team
until the final season.
Yeah, I mean, because all that matters is winning. And that's where Tom is. You know, all that matters is winning. And as a fan, you know, I don't think fans appreciate that. And I think fans are willing to appreciate it when quarterbacks start doing that. But you'll never see quarterbacks do that because agents won't let them do that. So, I mean, that's the difference that I find with Tom, that as much as I hated Tom when he was with New England, and even now when he's with Tampa, I mean, he's – you know, all these opinionators and haters want to say, you know, he's a shell of the man that he once was. He hasn't had that great of an offensive line this year. He's had a lot of injuries he's had to deal with offensively, and their defense just hasn't really been that good. But besides all that, guess what? They're in the freaking playoffs. So
when we talk about Tom, okay, what do we put in there when they say he's the GOAT? Are they talking about from week 1 to week 17 or week 1 to week 18?
Championships he has.
All they talk about is what he did in January, okay? Yep. And that's it.
Yep.
And that's it. It's like that the video I saw when Shaquille O'Neal was on the ESPN. We have all seen the video, and the guy's talking about LeBron being the greatest, and he goes, and Shaquille goes, what? He goes, you're not even putting Michael? What about Michael? What was Kobe? He goes, well, I'm going to take Kobe, set him to the side, and then so we'll discuss Michael. He goes, hold up. You're not even putting Michael in the discussion, and everybody else is shaking their head. This guy I don't know who he is. I don't know if he's a former player, but he was a dumbass. Because Shaquille asked him, Shaq asked him, he goes, what was Michael's record in the finals? Yeah. He goes, that's all that matters. Okay. Yes, absolutely. LeBron's played in more titles than he has. Okay. But he doesn't have 6. Okay. But you know what? If Jordan didn't retire for 2 years and the Chicago Bulls weren't fucking morons, Jordan probably would have about 5 more titles. Okay.
Probably.
Jordan played 2 more years after he retired and got 2 more titles. Yeah. Nobody was going to beat him. Okay. And that's the thing to where you sit there and talk about it. It's like, I don't, when people tell me who do you think is the greatest of all time is, I say, I don't, because you cannot compare the different eras. Okay.
Yeah.
You cannot compare Tom Brady to Dan Marino because the rules were different. The defenses were different. Mm-hmm. The rules, Dan Marino played on rules that were geared and equal to everybody. Tom Brady plays on rules that
are not equal. That help him. Absolutely.
And the NFL is now all about points and scoring points. So the rules tend to help the offense and not the defense. So you can't really compare. And like when we've had these discussions, well, how many guys you think are playing now that could play back in the day? Well, yeah, just about everybody on the defense you can say, because they're bigger, faster, and stronger. Well, but just because you're bigger, faster, and stronger, but you know what? You and I both played football, okay? D linemen and O linemen, You don't have to be bigger, faster, or stronger. You just can be the toughest son of a bitch on the field.
That's right.
Because that's it. That's it. I'm not saying these guys aren't tough nowadays. Okay, I'm not taking anything away from them. So don't comment, you don't know what you're talking about. And again, part of our thing is it's our opinion, and we probably don't know what the hell we're talking about. Okay,
right.
But I'm going to tell you right now. Okay, you don't have linebackers like Mike Singletary, Dick Butkus, okay, Chuck Bandera. Those guys come across. Ted Hendricks, okay? When your nickname is the Mad Stork, you a bad motherfucker, okay?
You don't have a guy like Jack Lambert. You don't have a guy like what was his name? The dude for
Deacon Jones.
Deacon Jones. What was the guy for the Saints? Patrick Willis?
No, yeah. Well, you had Sam Willis was in ML, but you had Patrick Swilling too.
Patrick Swilling. Yeah. And yet,
I mean, and I'm not saying that the guys that play now are any different. That's why you can't sit there and say, yes, I will tell you straight up, Tom Brady is the most successful football player to ever play in the NFL. Successful. I'm not saying he's the best. Well, he's got this, he's got that. Okay,
I would agree with
you. Let's flip it another sport. Okay, let's go to another sport. Okay, when you sit there and talk, I say home run hitter. Who's the first person you're going to talk about?
Babe Ruth.
All-time greatest home run hitter. Okay?
Babe Ruth.
People are going to talk about Babe Ruth. Do they even mention Barry Bonds? No. Hell, it's sad because they don't even mention Hank Aaron either. It's Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth hasn't hit a home run in 90 years, people. Okay? 90 years. That's the gold standard for home runs. So when you sit there and say that, just because you have the record, that doesn't mean you're the greatest. To me, the best passer to ever throw a football is Dan Marino, and Peyton is right there behind him, okay?
I can't put Peyton as the greatest. Now, I would say Peyton is absolutely the smartest individual to ever play quarterback. Between the ears, nobody was better. But look, if I'm building a team, if I'm putting together a team, and I have my choice of quarterbacks, as much as I like Tom Brady, he's not my number one. There's probably, there's one guy that I'm hesitant to say, but I've told you many a time. John Elway to me is probably, first of all, you cannot deny that man's arm strength. His arm strength's unbelievable. His ability to just he was great. I mean, I never liked him. I knew that he was a Denver. I was never a huge fan of his when he played. But Dan Marino never truly scared me because he was on a really bad Miami team. The Denver Broncos, the minute they drafted him, they became relevant. And they were relevant every freaking year that he was there.
Well, Dan Marino was too. It's just that Dan Marino got beat in the playoffs. John got beat in the Super Bowl.
Exactly. But you cannot define a player. I get it. I guess you can. You can define the player by not winning the big one, which he did later in life. He won 2 years in a row, back to back, but he had an amazing running back, and he had
a great defense.
Which he had never, they called it was it the Orange Crush in the 80s? I don't know what it was.
The Orange Crush was the Denver defense of the 70s.
In the 70s. All right, so here's what we need to discuss right now, because we've got 10 minutes left in our
meeting. We got 10 minutes.
So we have got to move. I don't know what's going on with my chair.
Your fat ass sitting in it?
Probably. So anyways, that's the end. We're just gonna call it here. I guess we had a good talk today. Today was fun, right?
Right.
You know what? I think I'm gonna give me a little 12-year here or special reserve. It's not 12-year. I don't know what that is. All right, whatever. Drink me some Weller. So. Do you have your drink of choice? Oh, Blanton's. Of course it's Blanton's.
I'm gonna drink it right out of the bottle.
Oh my Lord. All right. Well, here's to our second episode. Or I should say 1B. We'll just call it 1B.
Right? 1B.
1B. Oh. God, I love Weller. All right, so we talked football. We'll have a whole lot more to talk about probably next week. Gonna let everybody know about the podcast, or I should say the podcast that's going to a YouTube channel. So to all the people that find this and like anything we have to say, thank you. And
comment on it. Tell us how stupid we are. How ugly we look. How dumb we are.
How dumb we are. Our opinions don't matter.
Okay. Guess what? Teflon skin. You ain't gonna fucking hurt my feelings.
Right. Who the hell cares? But we're gonna get together. This is gonna be, I don't know if this will be a weekly thing or whatever, but we will figure this out down the road. But we appreciate anybody who's watched. Welcome to the Lock and Key Experiment. Just to sum up the reason for the name, we were both latchkey kids. We grew up in an era where mommy and daddy weren't home when we got home. And so that's what we are. We're latchkey kids, just like a million of us others out there. And, just is what it is. And I just want to say thank you. And we're going to have other people on. We're going to have celebrity guest hosts that come on, like Dave Hobson and
why not?
Tony will probably come into the studio, or I should say my office. I'm sure we'll have your buddy Brian on, and probably your son Connor maybe. And we'll get together and we'll have some more fun and be fans and give the NFL as much shit as we possibly can until they change some shit, right?
Hey, and if you're part of the Last Key community, man, post in their comments that you wanted to hear us talk about. Hey, we'll go back and talk about anything. We'll talk about toys and crap that we did.
Yeah.
It's can't do stuff that we did when we were kids and all that. Hey, you can't do that nowadays. You go to jail, or our parents would have got arrested. We've been put in a home because of stuff.
Getting hit with an extension cord was pretty normal, So just that's it. So I'm proud of this, Trevor. I think.
Oh, me too. It's a long time in the making, brother.
We've been working on this for 14 years now, and we just finally got it. So we'll see what happens.
All right, brother.
All right, brother. I'll holler at you.
Later, man.
Later.